National insurance is going up today. Put that to the Health Secretary. He says there's no alternative.
I disagree. When people are facing huge rises in their energy bills, food bills, cost of filling the car, this is just the wrong time for the Conservatives to be adding all these unfair tax rises. Let's remember, it's not just the national insurance tax rise. They've frozen the income tax allowance, bringing lots of low-paid people into tax for the first time. This is just the wrong timing when people are struggling so much. That's why Liberal Democrats are arguing for an emergency tax cut. We think VAT should come down to 17.5%. That would give people, on average, £600 a year in less VAT. That's a sort of bold measure that's needed given these difficult times.
How do you make that calculation?
Well, first of all, it's going to cost about 18 billion, so it's quite a big measure. But if you look at the fine print of the budget statement, they're dragging in £40 billion in extra VAT because of inflation, because prices are going up. The Chancellor gets extra money from VAT. So I think the least he could do is use this sort of tax cut that Liberal Democrats are putting forward to help people.
OK. You say that the average family will pay an extra £430 in VAT compared to last year. How do you make that calculation?
Well, if you look at the amount of money that they were predicting a year ago from VAT, the receipts into the Exchequer, because inflation's gone up so much and is predicted to go up much, the government is now forecasting, the independent Office of Budget Responsibility is now forecasting they'll rake in £38.2 billion extra over this Parliament. That's a huge amount of extra tax. And if you break that down on a yearly basis for every family, it's over £400 in VAT this year alone, on top of national insurance, on top of freezing income tax allowance. That's why we think the Conservatives just lost the plot. They are piling on these unfair tax rises time and again when people are struggling with their bills.
Yeah, but the Chancellor was a hero, wasn't he, during the pandemic? He managed to keep so many people still being paid week after week after week under the furlough scheme. He's got to pay for it somehow. Well,
Liberal Democrats supported the furlough scheme, and that's right, and let's have cross-party agreement where we can. However, we've got to look at fair ways of raising the money that we need. So Liberal Democrats were the first party to argue for a windfall tax on the soaring profits of the oil and gas companies. It's just wrong that they're profiteering so much from this rise in oil and gas prices, which is hitting businesses and, of course, hitting families and pensioners across the UK. So Liberal Democrats want a fairer system where we tax the profits with a windfall tax of the oil and gas companies and use that to cut taxes on families.
On Monday, I think it was, Monday, the Wales Secretary sat exactly where you are now, Simon Hart, and he told us that the world has moved on from Partygate. Has it?
I don't think so. I've been going up and down the country talking to people ahead of the local elections. I was in Hull the other week, Somerset the week before, so around the country. And it's something that the ordinary people are bringing up unprompted. I think they feel that Boris Johnson is not a decent Prime Minister, that he's broken the law, that he's lied to Parliament, and they expect more from a Prime Minister. And what's really staggering is lifelong Conservative voters don't think he's a decent Prime Minister. That's what we found in Chesham and Amersham when we beat the Conservatives. Liberal Democrats beat the Conservatives in True Blue Buckinghamshire. It's what we found in North Shropshire, a seat held by the Conservatives for 200 years. Liberal Democrats beat them. And part of the reason, another reason was ambulance waiting times and the awful deal for farmers that the government have concluded. But another reason was lifelong Conservatives saying this Tory Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is not fit to be Prime Minister.
I'm going to have to unpack that for you because we don't know that the Prime Minister's broken the law. We'll have to wait and see what the police say. He certainly looks as though he has presided over law-breaking in Downing Street. Is that enough for him to step down, some might say? And also we've heard from the Ukrainian leader who's praising him to the skies.
Well, let's deal with Ukraine because that's such a critical issue. I'm actually quite in praise of Ben Wallace. Ben is the
Secretary.
Yeah, he's the Secretary of State for Defence, and he's been leading the support for Ukraine. President Zelensky, no doubt, is praising Johnson. The real person I think we should all praise is actually Ben Wallace. And here you are, me, a Liberal Democrat, praising Conservative Minister because I'm trying to be balanced. But Boris Johnson, we've now begun to see through him. And I was at school in my constituency the other day, and unprompted, these teenage people said, "Sir, was it a party or was it a work event?" And I said to them, You tell me. Do you know what they said?
No.
It was a party. You know, people can see for their own eyes what happened. I think the Prime Minister should have resigned before. I think Tory MPs should have sacked him for his failure to resign. And frankly, whether or not the Met Police ultimately give him one of these notices, the people in my constituency and around the country, they've passed the judgment. He's guilty of breaking the law.
Even if he is, and even if he has misled Parliament, we'll have to wait to see. The opposition, which includes you and the SNP and, of course, Labour, doesn't seem to have enough strength to do anything about it. Now, you'll say to me that it has to be Tory backbenchers that make the difference. But there has to be some strong-arm tactics from the opposition as well, and it just doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah, but your viewers have got some power in this. They've got to say, your viewers, if they send a message at the ballot box in the local elections, I would argue by electing strong local Liberal Democrat champions in the local council, sends a really powerful message. They can help get rid of Boris Johnson. So your viewers, I really want to tell them this, tell the Conservative Party, tell Boris Johnson, tell Conservative MPs that he has to go.
And if they don't, will you eat your words?
Well, I think from the people I've spoken to, they want to do that. We saw that they did that in Cheshire and Ambershire, and we saw they did that in North Shropshire, where Liberal Democrats beat Conservatives when no one expected us to. And my feeling from the doorsteps is that the voters want this Prime Minister to go. They don't think he's decent. They don't think he's fair. And the way he and Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, have responded to the cost of living crisis is frankly a scandal. They either don't seem to care, they don't get it, and they're doing absolutely nothing. And that's not acceptable.
If they don't, if my loyal viewers do not vote against the Prime Minister, do you have to acknowledge that we've moved on from Partygate?
Well, I don't like predicting what the voters are going to do before they have done it. So let's wait to see. Certainly the evidence is they are very unhappy with the Prime Minister, rightly, not just for Partygate, but for the way he's been running the country. Let's see. I mean, I'm pretty optimistic. I think if you go around the country, you know, I was in Harrogate the other day, I'm going Wimbledon today, we're picking up in those Liberal Democrat battlegrounds that people want to send the government a message, and I can't blame them, given how badly they've handled both Partygate and the cost of living crisis.
Lots of Labour politicians who've been sitting where you are have said to me that they want Rishi Sunak to go for Partygate indiscretions as well. What do you think?
Well, the evidence on him is less than the Prime Minister. The evidence against the Prime Minister, I think, is overwhelming. There's certainly evidence against the Chancellor. I probably haven't viewed that as carefully as I should. I think the Chancellor, the Chancellor certainly has a lot of questions to answer over Partygate. That is absolutely.
But if he's broken the law, should he?
If he's broken the law, he should go, of course.
And if if he gets a fixed penalty notice, he's broken the law.
Yeah,
and he would get a fixed penalty notice if he was in the cabinet room when there was cake.
Listen, if that's...
You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're right to go there. I think you're right. I mean, people expect, your viewers expect, politicians who set the rules, that they should keep the rules. There's not one rule for them and another rule for the rest of us. That is just unfair. It's not British. It's not the tradition of our great country. Okay. And if Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak are trouncing the rule of law and trouncing British traditions, that is not acceptable, and they should go.
OK. Unfortunately, I'd love to talk to you for longer, but we're out of time, so we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much.